A visit to Alaska can be spectacular in any season, and each will bring its own wonder. Most RV travelers make their way here for the amazing summers and will depart as fall and cooler temperatures quickly set in. We were fortunate that we could stay long enough to see the full transition from summer to fall. Our travels had looped us around Alaska's interior and brought us back once again to Fairbanks for a final set of Northern Alaska adventures. We were back here in the fall because Fairbanks is one of the best places to see the northern lights, but you need dark skies, which our first visit in midsummer lacked. This time, we were not alone, as a crew from Battleborn Batteries had joined us to see for themselves how the battery bank they'd helped us install for this expedition was performing, get a first-hand experience of what RVing in Alaska was like, and hopefully catch a glimpse of some of Alaska's natural wonders. Sean, Isa, Tyler, and Jim had rented a home downtown, and we did what many RVers will do when visiting friends and family. We lived in the driveway. Our first adventure with this crew took us out east of Fairbanks on Chena Hot Springs Road. We had a perfect, clear fall day with cool but comfortable temperatures, and the trees were at peak color. A good portion of this drive is the Chena River State Recreational Area, which protects this land for outdoor recreation. We pulled off to explore a few places along the road and stopped for lunch along the Chena River and to do a little fly fishing. We continued our drive to the geothermal-powered Chena Hot Springs Resort at the end of the road, about 60 miles east of Fairbanks. Hot geothermal water is used here to generate electricity, heat buildings and greenhouses, and of course, soaking. We had come to enjoy these Alaskan hot springs that are a popular destination year-round. The natural hot springs discharge water at 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and in the winter months are a popular destination for those looking to watch the northern lights while staying delightfully warm, no matter the outside temperatures.
That was wonderful.
That was wonderful.
After a soak in the hot springs, we decided to explore one of the other attractions on site, the Aurora Ice Museum. As we were waiting in line to enter, we were told about the large DC-6 aircraft named Good Grief behind the museum. It was brought here to retire as a display, as the Chena airstrip is not long enough for it to take off again after it made its final landing in 2016. Having just soaked in the hot waters, it seems strange to bundle up in heavy coats to go hang out in this 25 degree Fahrenheit refrigerated building. Here, world-class ice carvers get to create and display their sculptures for visitors to enjoy year-round. There are many different and unique rooms and ice sculptures that were fun to explore, including a functional bar. We were served appletinis in cocktail glasses made from ice, which were extremely hard to hold without gloves. We had had way more fun freezing our butts off in here than we thought we would, but we weren't brave enough to rent out one of the ice rooms in which guests can stay overnight.
Polar bear bed. What do you think? Want to stay in the ice hotel?
Never. While we had an amazing time, we all left a bit chilled and thinking that perhaps visiting the Ice Museum before a hot spring soak would have been a more appropriate plan.
Feels so good out here. That ice museum was so cool, but my hands are still freezing.
Mine are feeling a little better. It's amazing. It's amazing how warm 58 feels now.
Yeah, 58 degrees, and we feel like it's middle
lovely.
of summer.
It's lovely.
The next day, we started our adventure mid-afternoon by boarding a flight north. While we had already crossed the Arctic Circle and driven the Dalton Highway earlier this summer, we were heading back up once again. Today we are heading up to the Arctic with the gang on a flying tour. We're hopefully going to see the Northern Lights. We were flying to Coldfoot for a guided tour of the region and to put ourselves in the best possible spot to see the aurora come nightfall.
Very exciting day.
All right.
Buckle up for safety, bro.
With the blazing fall colors, the flight into Coldfoot was incredible, but a little bumpy as we landed in some drizzly weather. We disembarked from our plane and got on a bus that would take us for an 8-hour ride back down the Dalton Highway. This bus was clearly set up for driving this rough, remote road, with its rugged tires, suspension, auto chains, and light bars. We had an excellent tour guide and driver who would educate us about the road, pipeline, and many other details of the North along our route. As we traveled south, we made a stop at the Arctic Circle, where we were presented with a certificate for crossing into the Arctic. While we had stopped here before, we had not noticed the birds. So we're at the Arctic Circle. We're at the sign. We just got our certificates for crossing into the Arctic Circle. We're actually crossing back south now on our tour, but we stopped here to get our pictures with the sign, get our certificates, and play with the birds that are super habituated to people, and they'll come and land right in your hand. Hello.
Candy picking.
It just keeps getting better, Tom.
Prudhoe Bay, the route would follow the Saugatuck River and Connecticut Valley to the Brooks Mountain Range.
We made another stop further south at an observation point called Finger Mountain to stretch our legs. We had a blast climbing around on these amazing rocks, accented by fiery red bearberry. Our next stop was for a great salmon burger dinner at the Yukon River Camp and to explore the banks of the Yukon River. Just as we were leaving, Tom spotted a large cat standing on the edge of the road. Moving as quietly as we could, we were able to approach and get a rare, up-close view of this beautiful lynx. The sun had just set when we stopped to learn about the Alaska pipeline. Suddenly, someone spotted a glow on the horizon, and we caught our first glimpse of the aurora. Even in the fading twilight, it was far more intense than we had previously seen, and bode well for the rest of our tour. After our first sighting at the pipeline, we were all very excited for our next stop, around 1 a.m. at the Arctic Circle trading post. The night was getting cold, but our tour included hot beverages and snacks in this cozy heated cabin. But the real treat was simply looking up. The incredible display we were seeing is present here in the north most times. However, you need dark, clear skies to see it. The Aurora Borealis, also known as the Northern Lights, occurs in the northern hemisphere, whereas when it occurs in the southern hemisphere, it is called the Aurora Australis. Over the years, the Aurora Borealis has had many legends told about them by northern peoples. However, modern science has come to find that these mysterious lights are created by the solar winds. Charged particles ejected from the sun slam into Earth's magnetosphere. Some of these particles get trapped and accelerated along the magnetic field lines. They eventually crash into the atmosphere and create rings of light around the poles. These particles excite nitrogen, oxygen, and other gases, causing them to glow in much the same way that a neon light works. The colors you see are typically in bands that can be hundreds of miles tall and reach as high as the orbit of satellites. When you get directly beneath them, you can look up through the individual curtains, as we were seeing here. The lights were so good that we watched them for way longer than we expected. It was very late when we reluctantly boarded our bus to complete our journey back to Fairbanks. Well, it is 4 a.m. in the morning and we just got back to the airport from our flight and drive adventure, and wow, it was just amazing. We're all super tired, but so very happy with the whole experience. It was amazing. Since we had been up all night, the next day we took it easy and explored the immediate Fairbanks area. This included driving a short distance south to the next town of North Pole, Alaska. This unique Christmas-themed town has year-round red, white, and green decorations and has street names like Santa Claus Lane and Kris Kringle Drive. Its largest attraction, however, is the Santa Claus house that has been in operation since the 50s.
Where's Santa at? We gotta look for him. Last year we had a big miscommunication. I asked him for an Xbox and I got a PS3 instead.
Here they sell Christmas lights, ornaments, and toys all year long. You can visit Santa if he's in and check out a few letters to Santa that are received here in the hundreds of thousands every year. We had so much fun letting out our inner child, exploring the store, and watching the reindeer team they have on site. Our final adventure with this crew was another trip back to Denali National Park. Denali is only about a 2-hour drive south of Fairbanks on the park's highway, and we had such a great visit the first time that we wanted to see it again in the fall. As luck would have it, we arrived on the last day they were running shuttles into the park for the season. As we had seen earlier, the tundra turns a bright red here, but we were a little past peak colors. Regardless, we very much enjoyed the drive and, just as before, saw plenty of wildlife. The next day, we said goodbye to the Battleborn crew as they were flying out and we were starting our drive south. So far on this trip, we had only entered and exited Alaska via the top of the world highway, but this time we would stay on the Alaska Highway as we headed for the border. Before crossing into Canada, we decided to stay one last night in Alaska in the Tetlin National Wildlife Refuge, which mainly serves to protect the habitat of migratory birds that travel long distances to the warmer winter temperatures in the south. We stayed at Deadman Lake Campground, which turned out to be an incredible stop. There were no hookups, but like the majority of this trip, that suited us just fine. It had interpretive trails and even canoes available for visitors to use free of charge. There was no cell service here either, and it couldn't have come at a more welcome moment. As we prepared to leave the mainland of Alaska and begin our southern drive in earnest, the forced disconnection allowed us to slow down and enjoy the warm, calm day, absorbing the last golden moments of this chapter in our journey.